Hello there, this is Jenny McGarvey and I have a new video here to share with you today about how I made this page. As you can see, I already have a few items set out. I got a little excited and carried away, and so I already trimmed that first paper, which I wouldn't ordinarily do, but I did. Anyway, this is just a layout entirely from my stash, so let's go ahead and get started. These are both a piece of fancy pants paper. They're the same. One side is aqua, the other side is that high contrast black and white diagonal stripe. And then you can see I have a package of the Heidi Swap sequin rub-ons. Now I'm going to do something a little bit unusual, and I'm going to use the entire sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and rub all of those onto that aqua paper. Now I am trying to be pretty careful and making sure that I'm getting them all rubbed down. I'm using a super old Doodlebug rub-on applicator. One side is a little ball, the other side is more of a flat edge, and I sort of switch back and forth from which I want to use just to sort of change it up, keep it less boring or whatever. I'm rubbing all of those off except for the very bottom right corner and the very top left corner, because I'm going to then add those in a little bit more of a scattered pattern that you'll see here in just a second. Now I'm making sure that they're all properly rubbed onto the paper and pulling them off just carefully and rubbing down any little pieces that I may have missed while rubbing on the entire sheet. And most of them are pretty good, just a little bit here and there, which seems about right after having done the entire sheet. Now there, they ended up just how I wanted, and you can see how I'm going to start adding those a little bit more scattered, a little bit more not even like I did the rest of them in both of those two corners. I just sort of liked the effect from the whole even laid out pretty and then the little bit whimsical in the two corners. Now, as you can see, I have my photo of my dog, and I'm going to go ahead and mat that on a little bit of vellum. So I'm going to trim that right up and place it in the center of all those sequins. I want to keep it nice and tight and not add a lot of layers, because I really do want to be able to see those rub-on sequins behind the photo. Now I have that down and it looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and start pulling a few embellishments from my stash, including those Studio Calico wood veneers. They're a little bit the burnished wood. Now I've pulled out a dog paper clip, and I'm going to add that to some of the white space on my photo, and it's super cute, and I've been wanting an excuse to use one of those dog paper clips, so it's perfect on a layout about my dog. Now I'm also going to pull out a label, and that'll go at the very bottom and contain the journaling that I'm going to use for this page. Though it is a little bit boring and a little bit not interesting. And also, I don't know about you, but when I do the print and cut on my silhouette, sometimes a little bit, it gets a little gummed up just from the adhesive on the carrier sheet or the mat. So I just used my adhesive adhesive eraser on that label. Now I've added a little label just behind the dog paper clip to make it a little bit more interesting, give it a little bit more layering without doing it behind the photo, since I do want those sequins to stand out. Like I said earlier, the label at the bottom is a little bit boring, so I added a tag behind it in order to just give it a little bit extra. And I'm going to trim the bottom off of that after I adhere it down, just so that it can bump right up to the edge of that page. Again, still erasing some of the adhesive that's stuck on the label so it's nice and clean, and going ahead and adhering down those wood veneer pieces, since I'm pretty happy with how they look there. Now, as you can see, I got out my container of actual sequins, which is pretty funny since I used the sequin rub-ons, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere a few of those around the wood veneer sequins and the rub-on sequins. Not a ton of them, just a few, adding a little bit more whimsy to the page. And I use that Martha Stewart glue pen. That's how I adhere down my sequins. I've tried a lot of different methods. Initially, I was just sort of using a dot tape runner and adhering those down, but I find that the Martha Stewart glue pen really does work the best for adhering those sequins, and it dries pretty quickly as well. So I'm going ahead and making sure I've got all those stuck down. And by the time I'm finished with the page, that glue will have dried and the layout is safe to move around. So now as you can see, we're getting a little bit closer to the end. It's starting to look ready to go, though I want to add a little bit more. So I take a very old Maya Road snowflake die cut and add it to the back. It's craft with white print, and I like how that looks, and so it's all good, ready to go. So I adhere that photo down to the page finally and trim off the tag at the bottom. So it's looking pretty good, and we really are getting pretty close to the end. So I'll add a little bit of journaling about the photo and the circumstances surrounding the photo or the story of the page. And once I'm finished with that, I will go ahead and start looking through my stash for some additional embellishments to add to the page. I don't want to go crazy, just a little bit more. That's an enamel sticker from Freckled Fawn from one of the kits in the fall. I think it might have been the October kit. And I'm pulling out a couple of resin stars from my stash. I think those might have been from Pink Fresh Studio, perhaps. And a couple of brads as well. Now I have a stash of brads that I keep that are extras from a sheet or whatever, and sometimes they'll end up being girlier ones or just ones that didn't fit that I didn't use in the package, sometimes a little bit more neutral or whatever. So that comes in handy for a page like this, like a pretty pink brad or something like that, that I wouldn't have ordinarily used, but I can use on a page like this about my dog. So as you can see, I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down as well and poke the hole for the brad and stick it right in. Now it's finished and that's it, and I hope you enjoyed watching my video, and I look forward to showing you more in the future. Thank you so much for your time and stopping by today. Thank you so much.